welcome to In Conversation. We all want to do well in our lives, don't we? And those of us who are working or about to start their careers want well-paying and secure jobs. But how many of us want to handhold others so that they can find their source of livelihood at the place of their birth? One person who's doing that for well over a decade now is Hekani Jakalu. Here's her story. If you have the passion to sow seeds of change and make a discernible impact on the lives of people, who can stop you? One such change maker is Hekani Jakalu, a social entrepreneur from Nagaland. In 2006, Hekani teamed up with a group of Naga professionals to start YouthNet, a Nagaland-based non-profit organization. That's when her mission to handhold the youth of Nagaland so that they could become self-reliant in their place of birth and become responsible citizens took off. And since then, there has been no looking back for her. Her caravan has expanded, touching more lives with each passing day. In 2018, Hekani was conferred with a Nari Shakti Puraskar by the Government of India for her contribution towards empowerment of women. For 15 years, YouthNet has been instrumental in helping youth from the Northeast acquire knowledge and life skills and in addressing their education, employment, entrepreneurship and livelihood needs. The seed sown by Hekani has grown into a tree under whose shade thousands of youth of the Northeast thrive. Welcome Hekani to Doordarshan.
Thank you so much, Munmun. Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. Did you always want to be the change maker that you are?
I don't know, Munmun. I don't know. I grew up wanting to be a lawyer, and whatever change maker meant, I mean, at that point of time, I knew that I wanted to make a difference, but not change maker in this term.
So what did you visualize yourself as a child, and did you go on to achieve that dream, and what happened after that?
So Munmun, I was a very ordinary child. My father was in the army, so I had a good, comfortable childhood. Then I went to Bangalore to do my class 12 and then to Delhi for my graduation, Lady Sri Ram. And then till then, in Nagaland and in the Northeast, young people are expected, to join the government service. And that is the family pressure, that is the societal pressure. And I, in a way, thought I was going to get into the government job, sit for exams. But after my graduation, somehow I decided to join law faculty, the law school in Delhi University. And that sort of just made me change my whole vision about my own life. And I decided to become a lawyer.
Okay, so then you decided to be a lawyer, and then how did the YouthNet happen?
Yeah. And then after I passed off from law school, I practiced for some time. And then because I knew, and still the family pressure was there, especially from my father, wanted me to come back home. And I had to prove to him that even if I'm trying to do something which is not according to his wishes, I have to make sure that, I'm going to make him proud. And so my whole thing was, chalo theek hai, it's good, I've done my LLB, but I need to do something better. And that's when I applied for master's course LLM in the US, and I was fortunate to get a part scholarship. It's very expensive to study in the US, as you know, and for middle class people like us, it's impossible to afford. And we took a small student's loan from State Bank of India, and then I went to the US. I finished my master's there, and I dabbled a little bit. I was interning at the UN headquarters in New York, and then I was also working for some time with Amnesty International in San Francisco. And while I was trying to juggle all these things, I got a good opportunity to be a partner of a law firm in New Delhi. And I thought, why not? Because for every lawyer, your dream is to become a partner of a law firm. So it was a fantastic opportunity for me. I grabbed it and I became a partner of the law firm. But during this time, things changed for me. It was the early 2000, mid 2000, the retail sector was opening up in Delhi and in India, actually, I'm from Delhi, so yeah, and the NCR. And then you would see a lot of young boys and girls from Nagaland and from the Northeast working in this sector. For me, I am someone who respects any type of profession. I believe in dignity of labor, but my concern and my worry was what is driving our young people in hordes to the cities. And now, because these young people were actually venturing out of their little towns and the villages for the first time. And me being a Delhi girl, I know how harsh and how tough and rough Delhi can be. So that also start making me think about them from the perspective of a lawyer, actually. So when I was in the US, I was working on women's rights. And there we saw a lot of cases, especially in the Eastern European countries, where the government was struggling with issues of sexual exploitation, prostitution, sex trafficking. Their government was struggling with it, and all because young girls had to migrate to neighboring countries looking for jobs and livelihood. So my concern was, and the question was, are we going the Eastern European way? And that made me conduct a small study in Delhi with volunteers from Delhi University. And that finding and that report was something that made me, really think that I need to quit everything, go back home and see what I can do, help young people addressing youth employment, youth development in our state and in the region as well. When we started YouthNet, it was a new concept, it was doing well, and young people in other parts of the Northeast region, our friends especially, wanted us to start similar chapters and initiative in their state as well. For us, technically, we thought it was not possible, and it was a little too early to start working in other states, because I wanted us to, specialize here in Nagaland first, make sure it works, and then share our good stories and good practices with other states. But eventually in 2011, we thought we should start a platform where at least we can get young people from the Northeast together. And then we started an initiative called Young Leaders Connect. Baichung Bhutia, who was an icon then, youth icon then, and he still is one of the youth icon in the Northeast. And he's a friend, so I spoke with him, and we thought, why not? We should start, at least for a starter, come up with a platform where young leaders and achievers of the Northeast come together, strengthen each other, and see how we can take Northeast forward. And so this is our 10th anniversary. We have Baichung is the chair of the organization, and we have amazing other leaders like Union Minister Kiren Rijiju, Chief Minister Pema Khandu, Chief Minister Konrad Sangma, and Mary Com, and so many other achievers from the Northeast. And interestingly, when we started, we were young. So we called ourselves Young Leaders Connect, but eventually we thought 10 years down the line, we're all growing old. We cannot, keep on calling ourselves young. We have dropped young. Now it's called Leaders Connect, but we continue to have the Young Leaders Conclave so that other young people can be part of this one. So that is something, when we look at programs, we see many programs that's been organized for the Northeast, but it's just an event where people come together and they go back and they forget. But Young Leaders Connect is one Northeast, we are family.
So you listened to the voice of your conscience, and you did quite a journey from Nagaland to the US to Delhi, and you've come back to Nagaland. How did your friends and family react to your decision of quitting what many would imagine to be greener pastures to doing something entirely different?
So it was funny for my parents, especially my father. He was happy. Like, he had no idea what I was trying to do, but he was happy that I'm back, hoping that I will join the government at some point of time. But yes, for others, many of our friends were of course supportive, and we had seniors who were also supportive of what I was doing, but there was always an apprehension. Like, they would say, great, you have come back home and you're trying to do something different, but this is Nagaland. Like, you are being a dreamer. Things don't happen the way you want it to be, So that type of apprehension, some sort of encouragement, but there was always a pullback for, of some sort. But I had amazing couple of friends who I discussed with about starting this organization, and they trusted me fully. And because of their support, my co-founders at YouthNet, I just had the courage to do what I was doing. And my parents, of course, they were very, very supportive all throughout. For 5 years, I lived off them, like the office was in their building. Literally, I had a very huge student loan to pay off, and I was trying to start this organization on zero budget. So it was a very difficult time, but yes, I just thought I had found my calling, and so I decided to take every step as it came to me.
It's interesting that you decided to go in for something entirely different because your conscience said it. You said that you knew that that's what your calling was. Having said that, what was the first cause that YouthNet took up, and since then has it branched out into new areas?
For me, I had no experience in the NGO sector, right? And coming back home, and especially in Nagaland, it's a very peculiar situation because of the very historical political struggle that we have been going through. So it's not a normal any other state, like it's a conflict-ridden region, insurgency. Things are so much better now, but in the 90s and the 2000s, it was really bad. And so even the whole mindset about young people also, it's more negative. For them, it was, come each day, just take each day as it comes. They could not even see hope or positiveness in the future. And so in a situation like this, I have come back home with this full positive energy and thinking that I can change everything. And with that enthusiasm, I come. And I don't know where to start from. I knew because of my study in Delhi, the study that I did on young people working in these retail sectors and fine dining restaurants and wellness centers. So it also gave me a basis, but after coming back home, it was like, where do I start? And very interestingly, during those days, the whole RTI movement was happening, the Right to Information movement. And I had a friend who was a core person in the drafting of the RTI Act. He wanted me to spread the awareness because it was a new initiative that the country was going through in Nagaland. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be an RTI activist. I've come back home to be, to work with young people, and I can get into this whole activist role. But he said, no, if you're planning to work with young people on unemployment, I think it's important to make sure that the system is in place. And RTI, you can use RTI as a tool to empower young people so that the system can be checked and the system is in place. So that was our first initiative. With his help, because we needed technical support as well. So with his help, his organization's support, we traveled to in Nagaland. We have 11 districts, recently added one, but we traveled everywhere trying to talk to people about transparency and accountability in the system. And that was really an eye-opener because I was going, even if I wanted to do something for the young people, until I knew what was the ground reality, it would have been difficult for me. So it was really a blessing in disguise when Right to Information came, and the problems and the challenges and the difficulties that the people were going through.
But then you did not confine yourself to the RTI campaign, isn't it?
Yes, no, I did not confine myself. For me, that was a stepping stone. That was the first round. And eventually we did another youth consultation on employment. So whenever there's consultation, you have all these experts coming in, talking, telling young people what they should do. And in this case, in 2007-8, we were having this youth consultation. In all the districts, we had youth leaders, young people coming together, and they were the ones who were talking about their aspirations, talking about the strengths and weaknesses. And it was amazing because for the first time, young people were also getting this platform where they could talk. And it's important because many a times, as you know, Munmun, policymakers, many a times we think we know what's best for the young people without really understanding what young people want. And that is when the disconnect happens. So in this case, we had gone there, young people were excited. This is the first time they were getting a platform to talk about what they wanted. And for me personally and the organization, this was a beautiful exercise for us to understand the pulse of young people. That really gave us a basis to, start the other work, because by then we sort of knew the intervention points. So slowly, it's been 15 years of YouthNet. We started in 2006. It's been a long journey. Every day, still a learning process. because every day the aspirations of young people change. But yes, we did, that was the basis for us to start the whole process.
So any rough estimate on how many lives you may have influenced so far through YouthNet, and also any story of transformation that you can share with us?
Moon, when we look at our journey, definitely over 1 lakh young people we have impacted and we have worked with in different capacity. Because for us, we are not just an organization that skill people and give them jobs. For us, we also act like a lobby group, we act like an advocacy group. So we have different type of programs like active citizenship. The whole right to information was focusing on advocacy and active citizenship. And then we have the clean election campaign. So for that also, we were traveling to all the districts. On top of that, we do a lot of skill building program, a lot of entrepreneurship program. So when we talk of numbers, like I mentioned, definitely more than 1 lakh young people we have worked with in the past. But again, the difficulty is the type of work that we are doing, it's difficult, it's not tangible, like it's not measurable. It's difficult to measure, you know? So like if you ask me to give me a list of 1 lakh people, it might be difficult in terms of, you know, targets and numbers that you want to see. But yes, we also have our own database. Whenever we reaching out to young people for different programs, we make sure they're registered. So we have reached out to a lot of people. In terms of examples, there are many examples, but my favorite is also of this little boy who was very, when we started, he was a young boy who was a problem child, and he used to run away from home and cause a lot of problem for his family. We decided to sponsor him and for hospitality training in Kolkata. He went on to get a job as a junior chef at ITC Kolkata, and then he came back and started his own restaurant. So that is one beautiful story, because nobody thought that guy was going to make it, you know, and that's one story. The other one is also we found a young girl who was raised by a single mom. Of course, they had a couple of siblings, and the mother was suffering from cancer. And it was they were going through a very difficult time. And this girl joined us, joined one of our programs. And then because she was good and we saw the potential in her, we made her one of our trainers. And then she also made one of her sister join the organization as a student, as a trainee. Then she was sent to one of the 5-star properties in Delhi. And during COVID, she comes back and she was again with our organization as a trainer. So, and you know, they were really having a difficult time. The family was going through a difficult time, and especially with the mother suffering from cancer. But, you know, it's so beautiful when these young people come up to us and say, you know, our help, our support changed their lives. And so this is just one story, but there's so many other stories like that. It's not just about a person's life, it's also a policy intervention as much as possible. We're trying to work with the government, make sure that the voice and the aspiration of young people are reaching the government. So a couple of years back, we pushed for a year of construction worker. And in Nagaland, most of the construction workers are migrants. Young people here think that construction worker is for outsiders. They complain of no jobs in the state. But whereas we see there's so many potentials and opportunities, and that also is not just about training them, it's again about mindset change. And we had to discuss, we had to plan with the government to strategize and see how we can glamorize construction workers. So young people get attracted to construction work, you know. And then again, there's another initiative called Made in Nagaland. Now we work with a lot of entrepreneurs and they're very talented. But again, the market is small. Young people still think Nagaland products don't have much value. And so we had to brand this whole Made in Nagaland for the sake of our entrepreneurs. So they're not just one or two incidents, but even at the policy level, we try our best to make sure that the voices of young people are reaching the government.
Well, you studied law, you practiced law, and those who would have known you then would have thought that you'll be fighting for your clients in courtrooms, but here you are fighting for the youth of Nagaland, in Nagaland. When you look back at your own journey, does it amaze you sometimes?
I don't know, Moon. Yeah, but it's fulfilling. I don't know whether it amazes me or not, but definitely I know this this journey and this, I took a U-turn, right? And so this journey that the journey that came into my life so much later is so much fulfilling, and so I think that's what's important at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And how do you measure your success and that of YouthNet? If I ask you, what do you think has been your and YouthNet's biggest achievement, what would you say?
See, I don't know. It does not matter whether people credit us or not. But for me, I know what the situation was when I was a young girl, and when we started YouthNet, the whole hopelessness, the negative mindset, today, it may not be directly through our program, but definitely I know for sure, because of the intervention of our organization, there has definitely been a lot of mindset change. Because we have worked with people, have seen others changing. Like I mentioned earlier, because this was a conflict-ridden place because of its own history, there was a lot of hopelessness happening. And for me, I feel happy seeing young people who are positive. I can see the hope in young people, and that keeps me going, because that's how I started myself, with the hope. I know I went through a lot of challenges myself, but because of the hope, I could overcome that. And today I can see that a lot of hope in young people, and I can see a lot of positivity amongst young people. And so, like I said, I will not take the credit or give the credit to the organization, but yes, there has been, we started the process. And so we definitely think it's so much nicer. The place is so much nicer. The people, the youth are so much excited about life, and that's an achievement for me.
Hikani, your story reminds me of the film Swadesh, where Shah Rukh Khan played the character of one Indian expatriate called Mohan Bhargav, who quit his job in NASA and came back to India, served his countrymen. There are many people like you who are either with you, or they want to be with you, or want to be associated with a venture like yours, but there are challenges. It's perhaps not easy to quit a high-paying job, to move out of your comfort zone and do something entirely different in public interest. How challenging is it for people like you to go in for something like this?
So, Munmun, like any venture, there's always challenges. There's always challenges. And in my case as well, if you would ask any parents, just imagine raising a child, or children for that matter, itself is a big challenge. Now there's this organization who wants to change the whole mindset of young people to think positively. It's a challenge. You think you have just convinced a group of young people, and then you move on to the next group, and then you realize you have just lost them, So that is the challenge that we face every day. But again, apart from that, we also, though this is a very slow process, because in our case, it's a systematic change that we're trying to bring about. So it's not going to be easy, or I feel that I may never see the vision that I have for my state during my lifetime, but like I mentioned earlier, I am proud that at least we started the process. So yes, it is challenging, but like I mentioned earlier again, it is just that hope that keeps us going. And for me, every day, I keep on saying this, and it might sound strange, but I love Mondays, Munmun, because Monday is another new day where I can do whatever I'm doing to make someone's life better. And so if a person thinks that Monday is enjoyable and every day is a fun day, and that means I might be doing something good, and that is what is making me going every day.
What next now? Any goals that you may have set for future?
Munmun, till today, I don't think I have planned for anything as such. It just happened, and that is because this organization itself is been driven by the aspiration of young people. And so every program that we have taken up, every project that we take up, it's something that has been driven by young people. And so we are, I'm not ambitious to plan anything for myself, but of course I'm ambitious for our people and for our youth. And so whatever they want, it just goes that way. Unlike many successful people who plan and set a target for themselves, Unfortunately, I say unfortunately because people would expect me to have a goal, but unfortunately for me, it just works by the way I am driven by the aspiration of young people.
Thank you, Hekani, for joining us. The work that you are doing is absolutely commendable for Nagaland and for the whole of Northeast. More power to you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Manmohan.